Welcoming all my lecture series of machine learning for the topic hierarchical clustering in unsupervised learning. So in the previous video, we have seen the k-means clustering in terms of one-dimensional data and two-dimensional data. Now we will see that hierarchical clustering, and in that hierarchical clustering, we have the two types. One is that agglomerative and diversive. For that, we are going to see that agglomerative hierarchical clustering in this video. First, we will see what is the hierarchical clustering. So the hierarchical clustering is an unsupervised learning algorithm that groups the data into the tree-like structures, it is called it as a dendrogram based on the similarity. So it does not require any predefined value of cluster. So in the k-means clustering, we have to initialize the k value in starting itself. So that is the not require in the hierarchical clustering. So it builds the hierarchy by either merging the smaller clusters or splitting the larger ones. So it is that definition of hierarchical clusterings. So the types of hierarchical clustering is said that either we are merging into the one cluster or we are going to split into the smaller clusters. So the types of hierarchical clustering is agglomerative and diversive hierarchical clustering. So what is an agglomerative means? So in the agglomerative approach, it is a bottom-up approach, and diversive approach is a top-down approach. So the bottom-up approach means we are going to merge the smaller data points into one clusters, bottom to top. And in the diversive approach, we are going to splitting the one cluster into the similar data points. First, we will see that what is an agglomerative clustering. So the agglomerative clustering, the initial step is by treating each data point as a separate cluster. Each data point as a separate cluster, and after that we are going to merge the cluster with the closest data point, then compute the distance matrix of each data points and find the closest clusters and merge the clusters. So this is the steps in the agglomerative approach. So the algorithm is first you have to initialize then each data point as a separate cluster. For example, you have an n data points, means we have to construct the n by n matrix. After constructing the n by n matrix, we have to compute the distance matrix of each data points. For example, here we are having the 5 clusters C1, C2, C3. So we are build the n by n data points. In that n by n data points, for each data point we have to calculate. For example, C1 to C1 and C1 to C2, C1 to C3, C1 to C4 and C1 to C5. The distance between the C1 to all the 5 data points and C2 to all the data points have to be calculated. And the second step, we are building the compute the distance matrix. And the third step, we have to find the closest clusters. So identify the two clusters that are closest to each other based on the distance matrix. So in that, the closest clusters are, for example, 2 by 2, except 0, that is a 2. Otherwise, 0, we can suppose you can include the 0 means start from the 0 itself. So we can find the closest cluster, and the third step is we have to merge the particular clusters. Here the C1 and C2 is closest, so we are merging the C1 and C2 is equal to 1 clusters in the next step. So this process is repeated until we can get the only one cluster. So this is the process of agglomerative clustering. So finally we get the one cluster format. So the dendrogram is used to find that find the with dendrogram is a tree-like visualization structure used to build the agglomerative clustering. First, we have that single data points like A, B, C, D, F. So after that, we are going to merge the B and C and D, E. And after the third step, we are going to merge the D, E with F. So we can get the D, E, F. And after that, we are going to merge the B, C and D, E, F. We can get B, C, D, E, F. And finally, we are going to merge the A with B, C, D, E, F. So this is the steps of finding that one clusters. So it is a bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach means from the single data point, we are going to find the single cluster. So we are going to merge the single data points and finally we get the single cluster. So this is the one example in the particular example. Here already we have that distance matrix. So from the distance matrix, we have to compute the, find the smallest distance clusters. We have to merge it. So this process is repeated until we hit the one clusters. So in that 42, 43 and 42, 43 is merged. And the next step, we are going to merge the 42, 43, 26 and 27. The second cluster is formed. So C1, C2 cluster is getting. So in the third steps, we are going to merge the 26, 20, C2 cluster with the C22. And the next step, we are going to merge that C2 with the 18 and finally we are getting the dendrogram like first we are merging the 42 43 and 26 27, that is a C2. Then C3 cluster is C2 plus 22 and after that the C3 is combined with 18. Finally C4 and C1 is combined. Finally we get the only one cluster like this diagram. So I hope you understand what is that hierarchical clustering. So what are all the two types of hierarchical clustering? So how the agglomerative, it is a bottom-up approach tree structure is formed in the given data points using the hierarchical clustering. Thank you.